5 phrases that command respect without shouting. Did you know that 90% of workplace conflicts aren't about facts but about tone? Think about that. Most people don't remember the details of what you said. They remember how you carried yourself while saying it. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it in even simpler terms. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. You could have the sharpest ideas in the room, the best strategy for your company, or the wisest advice for your family, and still find yourself ignored, dismissed, or even laughed at. Has that ever happened to you? You give your best, but the respect just isn't there. I know that sting. Years ago, I walked into a meeting with my boss and team. I had prepared for days, but halfway through presenting, my boss waved his hand and said, "We'll circle back, maybe." Everyone chuckled. My chest tightened. I felt invisible. That night, instead of sleeping, I replayed that moment over and over. What should I have said? Should I have fought back harder? Should I have kept quiet altogether? The next morning, I stumbled across a line from Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly and show them their error. But if you can't, blame yourself or no one. And that's when it hit me. Respect isn't about shouting, arguing, or begging. It's about clarity. Respect is commanded when your words cut through the noise with calm conviction. Today, I'm going to give you 5 phrases that do exactly that. They are simple, but don't mistake them for weak. Used correctly, they create a quiet authority that makes people pause, listen, and recalibrate how they treat you. And here's the kicker: no shouting required. Stay with me until the end, because phrase number 3 alone can change the way people see you forever.
I understand your point, but I disagree. Here's why. Most people either go silent when challenged, or they go defensive. Both responses give away power. Silence looks like surrender, and defensiveness sounds like insecurity. This phrase does neither. It acknowledges the other person. I understand your point, but it calmly sets a boundary. But I disagree. No fireworks, no explanation you didn't owe in the first place. Picture this. You're in a meeting, and a coworker pitches an idea you know will tank. The old way? You argue, interrupt, or worse, say nothing and stew about it later. The Stoic way? You look them in the eye and say, "I understand your point, but I disagree." Notice what happens. You don't raise your voice. You don't insult them. You simply plant a flag. My mind is my own. Epictetus said it best. It is not things that disturb men, but their judgments about things. You've just shown that your judgment stands independent of theirs. Now, most people expect pushback when they're contradicted. But when your tone is steady, your face calm, and your words precise, you disarm them. And here's the twist. You're not just telling them you disagree. You're showing the entire room that you can stand your ground without losing your balance. Try this today. The next time someone presents an idea that doesn't sit right, resist the urge to stay silent or explode. Instead, calmly drop this phrase. Watch how quickly the atmosphere changes.
I don't find that appropriate. They think shutting down disrespect requires a lecture, a shouting match, or a sarcastic comeback. But respect is rarely won through excess words. This phrase works because it's short, firm, and leaves no room for debate. Imagine you're at dinner and someone cracks a cruel joke at your expense. The old habit? Nervous laughter, maybe a forced smile. But the Stoic response, a calm look, and I don't find that appropriate. Seneca once wrote, "He who respects himself will be respected by others." Respect begins with what you tolerate. By using this phrase, you're not attacking the other person. You're simply making it clear that there are lines you won't let them cross.
The first time I tried this was with a cousin who always had a sarcastic comment locked and loaded. He made one of his usual digs. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't laugh it off. I just said, "I don't find that appropriate." The table went silent for a second. Then he actually nodded, and the comment stopped. Your words become like a shield. You don't swing it wildly. You just raise it high enough that others realize this isn't someone you can toy with.
Let's talk when we can do so respectfully. This one's a game changer because it doesn't just stop a toxic conversation, it resets the entire dynamic. Think about the last time someone spoke to you with raised voice, constant interruptions, or simmering hostility. What did you do? Most of us either match their energy or shut down completely. Both responses hand control to them. But imagine this instead. You take a breath, you don't mirror their anger, and you say, "Let's talk when we can do so respectfully." In that moment, you've flipped the script. You've refused to fight on their terms. You've drawn a line that says, "My peace is more valuable than this argument." The Stoics called this mastery over the self. Epictetus taught, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can get the better of my will." When you drop this phrase, you've just proven that their disrespect can't chain your mind. I used it once in an argument with a colleague who kept raising his voice. I stayed calm and said it. The room shifted instantly. He paused, blinked, and, believe it or not, apologized. That day, I didn't just win the argument, I won respect. And here's the secret. The first time you use this, you'll feel a power you've never felt before. A calm so deep, even the harshest critic can't touch it. Before I share the final two phrases, let me pause here. If you're finding this valuable, if you've ever wanted to hold your ground without losing your cool, then consider subscribing. Every week, I share Stoic toolkits designed to help you command respect, stay calm, and live with power and peace. And trust me, the next phrase alone is worth it, because it's like locking a door no one can force open. Stay with me, because in the next section, I'll show you the exact words that can end any toxic conversation on your terms, without anger and without regret.
Phrase 4. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. Think about how most arguments go. Someone pushes your buttons, and suddenly you're knee-deep in a battle you never wanted. Every word feels like quicksand. The more you explain, the deeper you sink. By the end, you're exhausted, angry, and wondering, why did I let myself get dragged into this? This phrase is your way out. It's like closing a door, not slamming it, not locking it forever, but firmly signaling, I'm done giving my energy to this. Imagine you're talking with someone who's clearly not interested in resolution. They just want to provoke you, score points, or feed their ego. Instead of matching their game, you pause and say, I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. Here's what happens. The other person feels the boundary immediately. You've made it clear that your time and peace are worth more than winning an argument. And the best part? You don't owe them further explanation. Marcus Aurelius captured this mindset perfectly. The best revenge is not to be like him who performed the injury. Walking away isn't weakness, it's strength. It's choosing to be unlike the person who thrives on chaos. I tested this once with a colleague who loved turning every discussion into a debate club. No matter what I said, he'd twist it into a challenge. The old me would spar with him for hours. But one day, after 5 minutes of back and forth, I stopped. I looked at him and said, I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. He blinked, paused, and for once, he didn't have a comeback. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument I could have won. And in that silence, I realized the power had shifted. Here's a drill for you.
The next time you feel pulled into an endless tug of war, whether it's a pointless online debate, a family squabble, or an office spat, try this phrase. Say it once, calmly, then stop. Don't fill the silence. Don't defend yourself. Just let the words hang. You'll be surprised how liberating it feels.
That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. This phrase is pure Stoic elegance. It combines courtesy with firmness. You're acknowledging the other person's view without yielding your own. In our culture, disagreement often feels like an attack. People think if you don't agree with them, you must be against them. But this phrase diffuses that trap. It says, I hear you, I respect you, but I won't abandon my own judgment. Picture a conversation with a friend who's convinced you to follow their advice, a diet, a political view, a financial move that doesn't sit right with you. Instead of arguing point by point, you simply say, that's your opinion and I respect it, but I don't share it. The conversation ended right there. No drama, no lingering resentment, just clarity. And for once, I walked away without the weight of someone else's judgment on my shoulders. Try this for yourself. The next time someone insists you must see things their way, drop this phrase calmly. You'll feel the subtle shift. Suddenly, you're not trapped in their argument, you've stepped into independence.
Now you have the full set. I understand your point, but I disagree. I don't find that appropriate. Let's talk when we can do so respectfully. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. That's your opinion and I respect it, but I don't share it. 5 phrases, 5 shields, each one forged in calmness, rooted in self-respect, and aligned with Stoic wisdom. Remember this, respect isn't demanded by volume. It's inspired by character. The person who can stay calm while others lose their balance. The person who speaks few words but speaks them with clarity. That person is remembered. Here's what I want you to try this week. Write these 5 phrases down. Keep them in your phone or even on a sticky note at your desk. The next time disrespect shows up, in a meeting, at the dinner table, or online, choose one phrase. Use it once, then observe. Ask yourself, did the room shift? Did the conversation reset? Did you feel a new sense of strength inside yourself? Because here's the secret. These aren't just phrases, they're practice. Every time you use them, you're training yourself in Stoic self-mastery. You're proving, as Marcus Aurelius said, that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Before we close this section, let me leave you with a thought. Most people waste years trying to earn respect by force, shouting louder, dominating conversations, or chasing approval. But the Stoics discovered that real respect is quiet. It's calm. It's born not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. And in the next part, we'll take this even further. Because phrases alone are powerful. But what if you could build an inner fortress so strong that no insult, no disrespect, or no careless word could even scratch you? That's exactly what we'll uncover next. Stay with me, because once you learn this Stoic habit, you'll never look at disrespect the same way again.
We've covered the 5 phrases that command respect without shouting. But here's a deeper truth. Words alone aren't enough. If your inner world is shaky, people can sense it. You can say all the right things, but if your tone trembles or your body language screams insecurity, the effect is lost. That's why the Stoics didn't stop at phrases. They built an inner fortress, a mental citadel so strong that insults, disrespect, or chaos bounced off like arrows against stone walls. And once you've built that fortress, you don't just defend your dignity, you radiate a calm authority that commands respect before you even open your mouth.
Think about the last time someone disrespected you. Maybe it was a coworker rolling their eyes, a partner dismissing your idea, or a stranger cutting you off in traffic. Did you feel that surge of heat in your chest? That urge to snap back or stew silently? Here's the thing. Most think respect comes from controlling others, forcing them to behave better. But the Stoics saw it differently. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The reality is, you'll never control every boss, coworker, or critic, but you can control your fortress, your mind, your judgments, your responses. And once you do, disrespect loses its grip. The Stoics trained themselves to see the mind as a fortress, walls that protect, gates that decide what enters, a place of stillness inside, no matter the storms outside. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Most disrespect stings not because of what was said, but because of the story we attach to it. They cut me off because I'm not valued. They ignored me because I'm not enough. Seneca says, stop letting those stories inside. Imagine you're the gatekeeper of a castle. Every word, every glance, every tone knocks at the gate. Most people fling the gates wide open, letting in every insult, every opinion, every dig. But the Stoic gatekeeper asks, is this within my control? Does this deserve entry? If not, the gate stays closed. Here's an exercise. The next time someone says something sharp, picture it as an arrow flying toward you. In your mind, raise the gate. The arrow hits the wall and falls harmlessly. Then, silently ask yourself, is this in my control? If yes, adjust. If no, dismiss. That's the practice. Over time, this drill becomes automatic, and soon the words that used to pierce you barely scratch the surface. Imagine someone hands you a burning coal, their anger, their disrespect, their insult. If you grab it, you're the one who gets burned, but if you let it drop, it harms no one. Epictetus put it simply, if someone speaks ill of you, rather than defend yourself, say, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these. In other words, don't grab the coal. Smile at it. Let it fall. Here's a practical drill. When you feel anger rising, say silently, coal. Just one word. It reminds you that what you're holding will only burn you. Then, release it. A few years ago, I sat in a tense board meeting. A senior manager dismissed my report with a smirk. Cute, but not practical. The old me would have argued for 10 minutes, but instead I remembered Marcus's fortress. I pictured a wall rising in my mind. I let his words hit and fall. Then I calmly said, I understand your point, but I disagree. Silence filled the room. For the first time, he blinked and actually listened. Later, another manager pulled me aside and said, you didn't flinch. That made everyone respect you more. That was the day I realized the fortress is more powerful than the sword. When someone disrespects you, your body reacts before your mind does. Heart racing, muscles tight, words rushing to your lips. To reset, practice the 3-breath rule. 1. Inhale slowly. 2. Hold for a beat. 3. Exhale even slower. Do this 3 times before you respond. By the 3rd breath, your fortress walls are back up. Your words will be calmer, sharper, and far more respected. Here's the trap. People think being unbotherable means being emotionless. That's not Stoicism. That's suppression. The Stoics felt everything. They simply refused to let feelings
dictate their actions. Being calm doesn't mean you don't feel anger. It means anger doesn't steer your life. Being steady doesn't mean you never feel insulted. It means the insult never penetrates your fortress.
Here's a simple daily plan. Morning check-in. Before your day begins, remind yourself, I will meet disrespect today. Marcus did this every morning. By expecting it, you're not surprised when it arrives. Mental gatekeeper. Practice the arrow wall visualization during conversations. Not every word deserves entry. The hot coal. Use coal as a cue when anger rises. Drop it before it burns you. The 3-breath rule. Make this your default reaction. Breathe first, speak second. Evening reflection. At night, ask, what arrows did I let in today? What coals did I hold too long? Reflection strengthens tomorrow's fortress. Here's the payoff. When you build the fortress, something shifts in how people see you. You stop reacting like everyone else. You don't flinch at insults. You don't chase approval. You don't scramble for dominance. And that difference commands respect automatically. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by enemies, betrayals, and constant criticism. Yet he wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That's the fortress, the cliff, the unshakable presence. And in your own life, whether it's a boss who cuts you off, a partner who mocks, or a stranger who disrespects, you can be the cliff. You can stand firm. You can be unbotherable. Before we move on, let me ask you this. Have you ever tried building your own inner fortress? Maybe with meditation, journaling, or just biting your tongue in heated moments? Share your answer in the comments. I'd love to know what's worked for you. Because in the next part, we're going to make your fortress even stronger. You'll learn a Stoic technique so powerful, it doesn't just protect you from disrespect, it transforms every challenge into fuel for growth. Stay with me, because the next lesson might be the most important one yet.
Up to now, we've built tools to handle disrespect, phrases that command respect, and the fortress that shields you. But Stoicism doesn't stop at defense. The real mastery lies in alchemy, turning every insult, every slight, every moment of disrespect into fuel for growth. Sounds impossible, right? But this is exactly what the Stoics practiced. They didn't just block negativity, they recycled it into strength. Let's start with a simple truth. Insults only have the meaning you give them. Imagine someone calls you arrogant. One person hears that and crumbles, doubting themselves for days. Another hears it, pauses, and asks, "What's the lesson here? Is there a grain of truth? Or is this just their insecurity speaking?" Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." That's reframing. You decide what an insult means. You turn poison into medicine. Years ago, I gave a presentation to senior executives. Afterward, one of them said, "That was sloppy. Amateur work." The words stung. For 3 days, I replayed them in my head, ready to quit. But then I remembered a line from Epictetus. If someone tells you you're wrong, and you are, accept it. If you're not, then why get upset? I went back, rewatched my presentation, and realized he was right. It wasn't polished. My slides were cluttered, my delivery rushed. His insult, while harsh, was actually a gift. From that day forward, I doubled my preparation. A year later, the same executive praised my clarity. The insult became the catalyst.
Here's how you can do it too. When insulted, resist the urge to fire back. Ask, is this true, even partly? If true, use it as feedback.
If false, use it as proof of your resilience. Respond either thanking them for the input or staying silent. What happens is powerful. You stop being owned by their words. You turn criticism into raw material for growth. Seneca wrote, "The wise man is self-sufficient. For what he cannot obtain, he can do without." He also believed that enemies are useful because they sharpen us. The critic in your life, the disrespectful colleague, the mocking family member, they are unwelcome teachers. Think of a boxer. Without an opponent, there's no fight. Without resistance, no strength is built. The Stoics saw disrespect the same way. Every insult is resistance training for your character. So instead of asking, "Why are they attacking me?" ask, "How can I grow from this?" That simple shift turns every enemy into a sparring partner. Next time someone mocks you, imagine they're secretly your coach. Their words, however ugly, are pushing you to sharpen your skills. Maybe they're testing your patience. Maybe they're showing you where your pride is still too fragile. Maybe they're reminding you that calm is still your greatest weapon. This drill rewires your instinct. Suddenly, mockery feels less like an attack and more like training. And the moment you see it that way, you win.
Most people either fight insults with fire or let them wound deeply. Both are traps. Fighting escalates the drama. Internalizing poisons your self-worth. The Stoic way is neither. It's the art of using. Every insult is either feedback you can apply or noise you can dismiss. Either way, you grow stronger. Today, insults aren't just face-to-face. They flood in through screens. A negative comment online, a sarcastic message, a mocking meme. It's endless. Here's where the fortress and alchemy work together. The fortress shields you from the initial sting. Alchemy transforms the comment into something useful. Maybe it reminds you to tighten your message, or maybe it teaches you the discipline of indifference, choosing not to hand your piece over to a faceless critic. Remember what Marcus wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything about the subject." Here is a simple habit. When you read or hear criticism, classify it with one word. Useful, contains truth, even if harsh. Useless, just noise, projection, or envy. If useful, write it down. If useless, delete it, mentally or literally. This keeps your focus where it belongs, on growth, not distraction. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Disrespect and insult are your friction. The Stoic secret is indifference, not coldness, but freedom. When insults no longer hook you, you become untouchable. And here's the twist. People notice. They see the calm when most would rage. They sense the steadiness when others would crumble. And that's when respect grows, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. I don't find that appropriate. They think shutting down disrespect requires a lecture, a shouting match, or a sarcastic comeback. But respect is rarely won through excess words. This phrase works because it's short, firm, and leaves no room for debate. Imagine you're at dinner and someone cracks a cruel joke at your expense. The old habit? Nervous laughter, maybe a forced smile. But the Stoic response, a calm look, and "I don't find that appropriate." Seneca once wrote, "He who respects himself will be respected by others." Respect begins with what you tolerate. By using this phrase, you're not attacking the other person. You're simply making it clear that there are lines you won't let them cross. The first time I tried this was with a cousin who always had a sarcastic comment locked and loaded. He made one of his usual digs. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't laugh it off. I just said, "I don't find that appropriate." The table went silent for a second,
Then he actually nodded, and the comments stopped. Your words become like a shield. You don't swing it wildly. You just raise it high enough that others realize this isn't someone you can toy with.
Think of it this way. The fortress protects your peace. Alchemy transforms attacks into strength. Together, they create a cycle where nothing is wasted. Every insult becomes either a stone in your wall or fuel for your fire. That's why the Stoics were so calm in chaos. They weren't numb. They were alchemists. They had mastered the art of using life's negativity as raw material for resilience. Before we close this part, let me ask you, what's the worst insult you've ever received, and how did you handle it? Did it crush you, or did it make you stronger in the long run? Share it in the comments. I'd love to see how others have turned pain into power. Because in the next section, we'll uncover a Stoic practice even rarer. It's not just about handling insults, it's about commanding respect through silence. And once you understand this art, you'll realize sometimes the loudest statement is the one you never say. Stay with me, because this next lesson could become your unfair advantage in every conversation. We've explored phrases, fortresses, and alchemy, but now we come to one of the most underestimated Stoic tools of all: silence. In a world where everyone talks over each other, silence is disruptive. It unsettles. It forces others to fill the space. And when you master it, silence becomes one of the most commanding forms of communication you'll ever use. Have you noticed how the most confident person in the room usually talks the least? They're not rushing to prove themselves. They don't scramble to be heard. They wait. And when they finally speak, everyone listens. Epictetus said, "Nature gave us one tongue and 2 ears so we could listen twice as much as we speak." The Stoics understood respect isn't about dominating conversations, it's about owning your presence. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it with nervous laughter, endless explanations, or defensive arguments. But silence says, "I am comfortable with myself. I don't need to chase your approval."
A few years ago, I was cornered in a heated argument at work. A colleague kept raising his voice, trying to push me into a defensive position. The old me would have matched his volume or fired back with sarcasm. Instead, I chose silence. I folded my hands, looked at him calmly, and waited. He kept talking until his own words began to trip over each other. The longer I stayed silent, the more uncomfortable he became. Finally, he muttered, "Well, you know what I mean." Silence won that argument for me, not by overpowering him, but by making him realize he was arguing with himself. Here's a simple exercise. When you're asked a difficult question or confronted with disrespect, pause for 5 seconds before answering. 5 slow breaths. No rush, no panic. What happens? First, you give yourself space to respond instead of react. Second, you force the other person to sit with their words. That pause alone often makes them rethink their tone. Try this in your next meeting. You'll be shocked at how quickly the room leans in, waiting for your response. Silence isn't passive. It's not avoidance. It's control. The weak go silent because they're afraid. The strong go silent because they've already decided when and how they'll respond. Seneca wrote, "Speech is the index of the mind." But silence is too. A calm, deliberate silence tells people, "I am not rattled. I am not in your game. I choose when to act." Think of silence as a boundary you can draw without saying a word. Someone mocks you at a dinner table. Instead of snapping back, you sip your drink and give them nothing. Your silence says, "This is beneath me." And here's the twist. Silence makes the disrespect echo louder for everyone else. What was meant to humiliate you ends up embarrassing them. Marcus Aurelius faced constant criticism as emperor. Senators would mock his decisions, rivals would try to undermine him, but historians noted he rarely argued back. He would simply listen, nod, and move on. Why? Because he understood that silence in power is louder than words in weakness. His silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. And it worked. His reign is still remembered as one of the most respected in Roman history.
The next time someone crosses the line, instead of instantly replying, reset with silence. Count to 3. Breathe. Hold your ground. Then, decide. Do they deserve a response at all? Or has your silence already spoken enough? Most of the time, silence is answer enough. Today, silence isn't just verbal, it's digital. Have you ever been baited into a pointless online argument? A rude comment on social media? The instinct is to defend yourself, to prove your point. But digital silence is just as powerful. When you don't respond, you rob the critic of the one thing they crave, your attention. They fire shots into the void. They expose themselves while you remain untouchable. Remember, not every notification deserves your reaction. Silence online is the modern version of Stoic indifference. Here's the paradox. When you master silence, people listen more when you do speak, because silence creates contrast. If you rarely waste words, then when you finally say, "I disagree," or "that's not appropriate," the impact doubles. Think of it like music. Notes mean little without the pauses between them. Silence gives your words weight. Now combine everything we've covered. Use silence as your first response. Use the fortress to shield your mind during that silence. Then, when needed, drop one of the 5 phrases like a precision strike. This combination is lethal in the best way. People can't rattle you. They can't bait you. They can't drag you into noise. And when you finally do speak, your words carry an authority that silence has sharpened.
Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Silence is that delay. It's the buffer between the world's chaos and your calm response. And when you practice it, you'll notice something fascinating. The less you speak, the more respect you command. So let me ask you, have you ever used silence to win an argument without saying a word? Did it shift the energy? Did it leave the other person stumbling? Share your experience in the comments, because in the next section, we're going to build on this skill even further. Silence protects your dignity. But what if you could turn every difficult conversation into an opportunity to lead? That's exactly what we'll explore next. The Stoic art of setting terms. Stay with me, because once you learn this, you'll never walk into a conversation unprepared again. By now, you've learned how to use words with precision, how to build your inner fortress, how to turn insults into fuel, and how silence itself can command respect. But there's another level, one that shifts you from defense to offense. It's the ability to set the terms of any conversation, not by force, not by dominance, but by calmly defining the rules of engagement. Most people walk into conversations reactive. They let the other person set the pace, the tone, even the outcome. If the other person is loud, they get loud. If the other person is sarcastic, they get defensive. And before they realize it, they're playing on someone else's field. The Stoics flipped this script. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoic move isn't just reacting well, it's shaping the field so you never fight battles on the wrong terms.
I once worked under a manager who loved ambush meetings. He'd call me into his office and start hammering with aggressive questions. The old me would scramble, trying to answer fast, trying not to look weak. Every time I left drained. But after studying Stoicism, I tried something new. The next time it happened, I took a breath and said, I want to make sure I give you my best answers. Can we set a time later today when I can prepare properly? That one sentence flipped the entire dynamic. I wasn't refusing. I was setting terms. I chose the timing, the preparation, the pace. The power shifted, and he respected me more for it.
This phrase is simple but potent. Instead of being pulled into chaos, you calmly establish conditions. Imagine a conversation that's getting heated. Voices are rising. Instead of shouting back, you say, let's set some ground rules so this can actually be productive. Notice what happens. You've reframed the fight as a process. You've stepped into leadership without demanding it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth which never harmed anyone. The one who is harmed is the one who clings to his own deception." Setting terms isn't about winning. It's about seeking truth, clarity, and respect. You're signaling, I'm here for a real conversation, but it has to happen in a way that honors both of us. When you feel pulled into a disrespectful conversation, ask yourself, who is setting the frame right now, me or them? What terms would make this conversation useful? Can I calmly reset with a phrase like, I'll continue this when we can do so respectfully, or let's agree to one person speaking at a time. The first few times it'll feel strange, but once you try it, you'll see how quickly people fall in line when you calmly define the rules. Here's the mistake. People think setting terms is about controlling others. It's not. It's about controlling yourself and offering others the chance to meet you there. The Stoic doesn't demand respect by force. He models it. He sets the stage where respect is the only possible outcome.
Consider a salary negotiation. Most people walk in reactive. The company says, here's the offer, and they either accept or nervously push back. The Stoic approach, set terms from the start. You might say, before we discuss numbers, I'd like to make sure we're aligned on the value I bring. You've reframed the conversation. You're not begging, you're not haggling. You're calmly setting the terms, value first, numbers second. That shift alone can mean thousands of dollars gained. Here's a framework to practice. Before any important conversation, define 3 terms you want in place. For example, respectful tone, no shouting, no mocking, clarity of purpose, what's the goal of this conversation, and shared timing. No ambushes, but agreed moments. Then, if the conversation slips, calmly reassert, let's come back to the 3 things we agreed on. People don't always say it out loud, but they crave structure. In conflict, they secretly respect the one who stays calm and sets direction. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And the bravest thing in any heated discussion is not to match chaos, but to set order. When you do this, you're no longer just part of the conversation, you're leading it. A friend once told me about a tense family dinner. Political arguments broke out, voices rose, insults flew. He stayed quiet until finally saying, "Can we agree on one thing? If we're going to debate, we do it one person at a time without shouting." The room calmed instantly, not because everyone suddenly agreed, but because he set terms. And the respect he earned that night lasted far longer than the dinner itself.
Combine this with what you learned in the last section. Use silence first to break the momentum. Then step in and set terms. The silence resets the energy. The terms create order. Together, they transform chaos into calm authority. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like the wrongdoer."
When people drag you into chaos, don't mirror them, lead them. Set the rules of the game calmly, clearly, and firmly. That's how conversations shift. That's how respect grows, not by force, but by structure. So let me ask you, have you ever tried setting terms in a conversation? Did it shift the dynamic? Did people treat you differently once you calmly defined the rules? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Because in the next section, we're going deeper into one of the hardest Stoic skills of all, remaining calm in public attacks. When the spotlight is on you, when disrespect is loud and visible, how do you hold your ground? Stay with me, because once you learn this, you'll never fear embarrassment again. It's one thing to keep your cool in private, but what about when disrespect comes in public? A meeting, a family gathering, or a crowded room. Suddenly, the stakes feel higher, eyes are on you, and most people panic. But here's the Stoic truth. If you can remain calm under public attack, your respect multiplies tenfold. People remember not just your words, but your composure. When someone mocks you privately, it stings. But when it happens in front of others, shame joins the pain. We fear looking weak. We fear losing status. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Public disrespect exposes this craving for approval. The Stoic path is to break that craving, to act from inner principles, not outer validation. I once sat in a packed meeting when a senior executive said, "This plan is unrealistic. Did you even think this through?" Laughter rippled around the room. For a second, I froze. My face burned. My instinct was to defend myself, to fire back with details. But then I remembered Marcus Aurelius's line, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." So instead of snapping, I paused, breathed, and said, "I appreciate the concern. Let's walk through the numbers together." The room shifted. The laughter stopped. Because I hadn't panicked. I hadn't attacked. I had turned the attack into a calm redirection. And that calm, more than the data, earned respect. Here's how you can practice. When publicly disrespected, first, pause for 3 seconds. Don't rush. 2. Acknowledge without defensiveness. I hear your concern. 3. Redirect calmly to facts or next steps. This pause alone often unsettles the aggressor. They expect panic. When they meet calm, they lose control. Most people think respect is won by winning arguments in front of others, but the Stoics remind us, arguments aren't remembered, composure is. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you respond." In public, your response becomes your reputation. Socrates was publicly mocked constantly. Young men followed him through the streets, shouting insults. His response was silence, questions, calm replies. One story tells of an angry man who struck Socrates. Instead of retaliating, Socrates calmly said, "If an ass kicks you, do you take it to court?" The crowd laughed, but not at Socrates, at the attacker. His calmness turned public shame into public respect.
When insulted publicly, filter the moment through 3 lenses. Lens 1, truth. Is this accurate feedback? If so, use it. Lens 2, noise. Is this just theater for the crowd? If so, ignore it. Lens 3, example. How can I model dignity here for everyone watching? By focusing on the example, you turn every public attack into a demonstration of strength. Today, public disrespect often happens online. Comments, posts, viral clips. Once again, the instinct is to fight back. But ask yourself, who wins in the long run? The one who scrambles to defend every comment, or the one who stays grounded and lets silence do the work? Marcus wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That applies online too. The less you waste words on critics, the more your words matter when you do speak. A father once told me about a parent-teacher meeting in a crowded gym. Another parent blamed him for a scheduling mistake. Dozens of eyes turned. He felt cornered. Instead of lashing out, he calmly said, "Thanks for pointing that out. I'll check with the administration." Then he sat back down. Later, multiple people approached him privately. "You handled that with so much class." The accuser looked petty. The calm father looked strong. That's public stoicism. Here's a way to train. Ask a trusted friend or partner to mock or criticize you lightly in a group setting. Practice your pause, your calm acknowledgement, and your redirection. The more you rehearse calm under pressure, the more automatic it becomes in real moments. Now see how it all connects. The fortress shields you internally. Silence buys time. Setting terms redirects the tone. And public calm protects your reputation. Together, they make you untouchable. Not because attacks stop, but because they can't shake you anymore.
Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." In public disrespect, tolerance means refusing to match pettiness. Strictness means holding your own standard of calm. That combination commands respect far louder than shouting ever could. So let me ask you, have you ever faced public disrespect? Did you freeze, fight back, or stay calm? Share in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Because in the next section, we're going deeper still. We'll uncover the Stoic secret of invisible preparation, the private habits that make public strength possible. Stay with me, because once you master this, you'll realize respect isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows long before the world is watching. Respect in public isn't earned in the spotlight. It's forged in the shadows through the private habits no one else sees. The Stoics knew this well. They understood that public composure is only possible because of private discipline. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of preparation. And if your preparation is invisible but consistent, your strength will seem effortless when the pressure comes. Think about athletes. What looks like natural talent under the lights is actually thousands of hours of invisible training. The same is true of composure. Calmness isn't a lucky reaction, it's the product of daily practice. Epictetus reminded his students, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Invisible preparation is about deciding the man you want to be in public and then training that standard every day in private. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, faced betrayal, war, and constant criticism. Yet his writings in Meditations weren't meant for the world. They were his private training ground. Each night, he wrote reminders to himself to be patient, to be calm, to be humble. That invisible habit built the visible emperor we still admire today. His strength in public was born from discipline in private. Each night, ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I stay calm today? Where did I lose control? What will I do differently tomorrow? 5 minutes a night. That's it. But over weeks and months, this habit builds a pattern of composure that shows up in public moments without effort. The Stoics practiced something like modern visualization. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Each morning, they imagined the insults, frustrations, and challenges they might face. Marcus wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil.' By rehearsing the day's difficulties in advance, they were never surprised. They had already practiced their calm. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone or email, Forecast the day. Imagine a coworker dismisses your idea, a driver cuts you off, a family member criticizes your choices. Then, picture your calm response. By the time these things happen, you'll feel like you've already faced them once. Most people only practice composure when chaos is already happening. That's like trying to learn boxing while already in the ring. The Stoic approach is the opposite. Prepare when it's quiet. Train when no one is watching. That way, when the test comes, calmness flows naturally. Modern Navy SEALs train under the motto, "Under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training." The same is true for respect. You won't suddenly become calm in a heated argument if you've never practiced calm in smaller moments. Invisible preparation means using daily life as training. Traffic jams, long lines, slow service, as your practice ground. Pick one daily irritation: a line at the grocery store, a slow internet connection, a late reply to your message. Instead of fuming, use it as training. Breathe. Remind yourself, this is my practice. The more you use everyday life as your dojo, the more unshakable you become when real challenges arrive. Here are 3 private disciplines that quietly build public strength. 1. Morning reading. 5 minutes of Stoic texts each morning. Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus. This sets your mental tone. 2. Silent reflection. 10 minutes of stillness each day. No phone, no music. Just you and your thoughts. 3. Micro journals. A single sentence at night. Today I stayed calm when, or today I lost it when. These aren't dramatic, they're invisible, but they stack, and over time, they create a calmness that feels unshakable. Here's the secret. People think composure is rare because they assume it takes extraordinary effort in the moment. But the truth is, composure is simply the byproduct of invisible preparation. The Stoics knew public storms are inevitable, but private practice makes you stormproof. A man once told me about being cornered in an elevator by a rival who tried to provoke him. "You think you're better than me, don't you?" the rival sneered. Instead of snapping, he simply smiled and said nothing. Later, he admitted that years of morning meditation had trained him for that moment. He said, "If I hadn't practiced calm daily, I would have blown up." Invisible preparation made public strength automatic.
Now, connect the chain. The fortress protects your mind. Alchemy transforms insults into growth. Silence unsettles your opponent. Setting terms reframes the game. Public calm guards your reputation, and invisible preparation makes all of it possible, day after day. This is the architecture of respect. Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Respect works the same way. When your preparation is invisible, your strength looks like luck to others, but you'll know the truth. So let me ask you, what invisible habits do you already have that prepare you for public calm? Meditation? Exercise? Journaling? Share in the comments. I'd love to hear your tools. Because in the next section, we're stepping into one of the hardest Stoic practices yet: detachment. The ability to care deeply without being controlled. To give your best and still remain free when others don't respond with respect. Stay with me, because once you learn this, you'll never again feel chained to someone else's approval. Up to now, we've explored phrases, fortresses, silence, terms, public calm, and preparation. But here's the ultimate paradox. The more you need respect, the less you get it. True power comes when you no longer chase approval, yet your presence naturally commands it. That paradox is Stoic detachment. Think about someone desperate to be liked. They laugh too loudly at every joke. They agree with everything. They scramble to explain themselves at the slightest disagreement. Do they earn respect? No, they lose it. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." The craving itself makes us weak. The more you chase respect, the more it slips away. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means caring enough to give your best, but not needing validation to confirm your worth. I once sat at a dinner where a man kept boasting about his achievements. Every few minutes, he'd glance at me, waiting for admiration. In the past, I might have forced a compliment, but this time I stayed calm, offered polite nods, and didn't feed the performance. Guess what happened? By the end, he was the one looking uncomfortable. Because the less I chased his approval, the more obvious his neediness became. Detachment flipped the power dynamic. For 1 week, notice every time you catch yourself fishing for validation, whether it's checking likes online, repeating a story to impress, or explaining yourself when you didn't need to. Each time, pause and ask, would my action change if no one approved? The more you practice this, the more you realize how often you unconsciously beg for respect. And slowly, you begin to stop. People think detachment means coldness, shutting people out, refusing to care. But the Stoics cared deeply. Marcus Aurelius loved his family, served Rome, and bore immense responsibility. But he didn't tie his worth to approval. He wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." Detachment is sanity. It's freedom from the leash of others' opinions. Consider a job interview. 2 candidates walk in. One is desperate. He tries too hard to impress, laughs nervously, over-explains every answer. The other is calm, centered. He gives thoughtful responses, and if he doesn't know something, he admits it without panic. Who earns more respect? The detached one. Because he's not begging for approval, he's grounded in his own worth. Here's a practice. When criticized or ignored, wait 24 hours before responding. In that space, you detach from the emotional sting. You can still respond later, but without the desperation to fix your image instantly. Over time, this rule builds a calm patience that commands respect.
Seneca said, "He who respects himself is safe from others." That's detachment in action. When you respect yourself, others' opinions lose their chains. This doesn't mean arrogance. It means grounding. You know your values, you know your effort, you know your principles. Respect becomes a byproduct, not a goal. A friend once told me about a performance review where his boss was cold, critical, and dismissive. In the past, he would have panicked, begging for reassurance, promising to work harder. This time, he listened calmly, thanked his boss for the feedback, and left without chasing approval. Later, the same boss admitted, "I respect how you didn't get defensive." His detachment turned criticism into credibility. Each night, look in the mirror and ask, did I live by my values today? If yes, you've already won, regardless of who praised or ignored you. If no, adjust tomorrow. This grounds respect where it belongs, inside. Now link the lessons together. Fortress shields your inner world. Preparation builds invisible strength. Silence shows calm authority. Detachment frees you from chasing respect. Together, they create the paradox of power. The less you need respect, the more naturally it flows towards you.
Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That's detachment, the courage to live your principles even when others don't see or approve. And here's the irony. When you stop needing respect, you project a strength that makes people respect you even more. So let me ask you, when was the last time you acted from detachment instead of craving approval? Did it change how people treated you? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Because in the next and final section, we're going to bring everything together. You'll see how all these lessons, phrases, fortress, silence, terms, public calm, preparation, and detachment fit into one Stoic action plan you can use daily. Stay with me, because in the last part, you'll discover the most powerful Stoic secret of all: how to live so firmly in your principles that respect is no longer something you demand, but something you embody. We've traveled far together, from phrases that cut through noise, to the fortress that shields your mind, to the alchemy of turning insults into strength. We've explored silence, setting terms, public calm, invisible preparation, and detachment. Now it's time to bring it all together. Because Stoicism isn't about collecting scattered tactics, it's about building a way of life, a framework so strong that respect is no longer something you demand, it becomes who you are. Think about building a house. Strong walls mean little without a foundation. A roof collapses without structure beneath it. Respect is the same. A single phrase, a moment of silence, or a private drill can help, but only when combined into a whole system do they transform you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Integration is about moving from knowing to being.
A former client once told me about the moment he realized integration was real. In a heated boardroom, he faced disrespect from a senior partner. In the past, he would have exploded or folded, but this time, everything clicked. His mind stayed calm, fortress intact. His speech was precise. "I understand your point, but I disagree." His action was steady: silence, posture, and calm detachment. The room noticed, not because he won the argument, but because he carried himself with a quiet strength that made everyone lean in. Respect wasn't forced, it was natural. Here's how you can integrate all 10 lessons into daily practice. Morning forecast, mind. Visualize challenges and prepare calm responses. Phrase practice, speech. Choose one Stoic phrase to use that day. Silent pause, speech. Commit to 3 deliberate pauses in conversation. Everyday dojo, action. Treat minor irritations as training for composure. Mirror test, action. End your day with, "Did I live by my values today?" 5 steps, 10 minutes, done daily. This creates a cycle of respect that no one can take from you. Most people chase respect as a goal. They think if they argue better, impress more, or dominate louder, they'll get it. But respect isn't chased, it's attracted. It's drawn toward those who don't need it because they already respect themselves. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The deepest respect comes when people see that mastery in you.
Here's the complete Stoic toolkit we've built. 5 phrases that quietly command respect. The fortress that shields your peace. Alchemy that turns insults into growth. Silence that unsettles opponents. Setting terms that reframes conversations. Public calm that preserves your dignity. Invisible preparation that builds unseen strength. Detachment that frees you from approval. Integration that ties it all together. This is not just philosophy, it's strategy for everyday life, at work, at home, in public, online. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, sitting in his tent after a day of war. His generals argue, his enemies mock, his people complain. Yet, in his journal, he writes only to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength."
That was the most powerful man in the world, reminding himself of the simplest truth. Respect doesn't come from title, army, or wealth. It comes from mastery of the self. And if he needed that reminder, so do we. For the next 30 days, commit to this. Week 1, practice one phrase each day. Week 2, build your fortress with morning forecasts. Week 3, train silence and setting terms in real conversations. Week 4, reflect nightly with the mirror test and detach from approval. By the end of 30 days, you won't just know Stoicism, you'll live it. Respect won't be something you fight for. It will be something you carry with you, silently, wherever you go. Seneca said, "He who has great power should use it lightly, and there's no greater power than the calm authority you've now learned to carry." So, if this journey has resonated with you, subscribe and join me each week. Together, we'll keep building these Stoic toolkits, practical, powerful, and proven by time. And tell me in the comments, which Stoic practice will you commit to first? The phrases, the fortress, the mirror test? Drop your answer below. I'd love to hear it. Because remember, respect isn't imposed by force, it's inspired by character. And the man who masters himself masters the room. Stay strong, stay calm, and keep building your fortress.